Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for listening to what I have to say. Certainly a slightly different picture compared to my predecessors, but it's still a very interesting area. XTEK listed, of course, a market cap of about $40 million. Few key investment highlights that you can see here. We are very well positioned for very high growth, underpinned by high value proprietary product and solutions, and a very favorable market sentiment within the domestic and the global defense industry. So we focused on market leading soldier solutions. We don't do run of the mill thing. It's always very innovative and new. We are benefiting from the US expansion, which is accelerating our ballistic solution strategy. We have bought a company in the US, which is of course the biggest market for defense in the world. We have Actionable Intelligence software interfacing with unmanned system, which is very exciting, and we'll go back into that in a few minutes. There is a very favorable defense market sentiment at the present time. The increase in the budgets in general in the West are pretty substantial, and we have a very strong pipeline of opportunities and near-term catalysts as well. Next slide, please. So if you look at our financials that we've announced at the end of the first half of 2021, we have a revenue that has been growing, from 2 years ago, a bit steady compared to last year. But I think the main news here is the gross profit has gone up in terms of dollars, but also very much in terms of gross margin. We went from an 18% gross margin last year to 26% for this first half, and that is really important in terms of the message I have to pass today. If you look at the three pies that are on the right, we used to be very much of a company distributing products from typically overseas OEM. That is shown in particular in the FY20 figures you can see in the first pie, because that involves the proprietary product in yellow are only about 25%. The repair and maintenance higher margins, of course, in blue, and the the proprietary products in yellow only 25%, and the distribution product, which is low margin, in grey. And you can see how it has already evolved during the first half of 21 to getting to about 60%, 70% of the high margin products, and the distribution getting down. So the low margin products are typically being reduced. And when you look at the medium term, that tendency will continue to go in that direction. So strategy is really going from distribution product low margin to our own products, which are much higher margins. Next slide. So what we do in terms of products, we have ballistic solutions on one side, which is always, in terms of protecting the frontline protectors. We do work in the combatant area, not the headquarters or the back office. Here we're talking ballistic solutions in helmets, side armor, soft armor, ballistic shields, with our own product, our own technology. On the other side, we have unmanned systems, small unmanned aerial systems on one side, unmanned ground systems, spacecraft on the other. So typically unmanned, very new technology, and something that goes in between, which is actionable intelligence. It's data that you derive from these unmanned systems to sort of get action into the warfighter. Next slide. So recent operational highlights on the ballistic solution. On one side, we've invested very much in our Adelaide manufacturing center, which is manufacturing products in our commercial exclave scale, demonstrating the required high level of ballistic performance. We've successfully delivered 3/4 of our first big contract with the Finnish Defence Forces. We have a very strong US performance with our subsidiary there that is now fully integrated with the main company in Australia, with a robust demand and expanding sales in the US. We've appointed, very key people, strategic advisors, the Brigadier Max Smethurst in particular, But also we've appointed Christopher Pine, the ex-Minister for Defence, on our board. In terms of actionable intelligence, we are leveraging actionable intelligence software on the C4H program, which is for the Australian Army. And we received a $1 million contract for this. That really allows a number of Australian companies to sort of do a system basically to manage the soldier at the front line. We've received commercial ex-Atlas orders from the Danish defense in particular, and we continue our focus and supply of maintenance of unmanned robots and unmanned systems, as we've done in the past, and with new people now with Milram Robotics we are representing as well. In general, we're well funded. We have executed our international commercialization strategy following an oversubscribed capital raise we did in August last year, which should allow us to sort of invest into the US in particular with the same machine we've invested in Australia. Next slide. So we have a well-defined strategy in ballistics. It's not good enough if you're a starter in a new technology to have a fantastic technology. In that case, we have a very strong process, which is well developed, and we have a strong IP in place and well protected with patents and know-how. But you need to get products out of it as well. So we have a number of products which are very substantial, which are typically plates and helmets, which tend to be much lighter than what exists on the market. But we also provide a number of other products that are available, 1,000 of those, which we derived from our activity in the US, because people don't want only a plate or only a helmet; they want other things as well. So we have a complete offering, which is there. Of note, the helmets in particular is probably the only helmet in the world that can stop an AK-47 bullet, which is an extremely unique product, and which is very much in demand at the present time. Good enough to have a good process, very good to have products, but you need manufacturing capability as well. So we have that manufacturing capability that we inaugurated in February last year, and that's been producing, as we've seen, in small quantities to start with, but is growing as we go. And the other thing is that we need is a very large distribution network and major customers. That's the reason why we bought that company in the US, and these guys have got a full distribution network in the US, mainly with law enforcement, but with the military as well, in the biggest market in the world. Next slide. So that's how this machine looks like, and it actually is the new process. You put your plates into a very high pressure vessel, and you process it in a very unique way, which gives you an isostatic pressure and a very strong product, and very light at the same time. Next slide. You can see here that we have successfully manufactured and shot the first hard armor plates there, achieving required ballistic performance, which is very important in that commercial exclave. We have successfully manufactured large batches, as you can see on the picture, and we have launched a full commercial launch in the US on the 1st of March. So really, we are on the cusp of large contracts and distribution on the biggest market in the world and elsewhere as well. Future capacity up to about $40 million a year. This allows you to make up to 80,000 plates a year, or about 400,000 helmets a year. Next slide. This is where we're located, headquarters in Canberra, with about 38 people, a factory in Adelaide with 21, a factory again in Columbus, Ohio in the US, and a number of representatives, which allows us to sort of represent our products across the world. Next slide. Actionable intelligence. We have a piece of software that takes the data, the full motion video from a UAV, and converts that into a real-time, very accurate georeference 3D mapping, which is very important to sort of give you a comparison with previous data on one side, but also gives you a real-time situational awareness and targeting. Targeting with a small UAV of that size is actually very unique, and it's very critical to the soldier's safety, especially as we interface those into other weapon systems in particular and ground robots. So not only do you target, but you can pass on that target to a weapon system to sort of engage a particular target. Next slide. So we are on our market channels. I've mentioned the C4 Edge on one side, which is a program involving a lot of different Australian companies. We have contracts about that. We have been supplying very large contracts to the military here in Australia for small UAVs, 1.3 kilos, about 45 minutes endurance, and we do product delivery as well as maintenance on those. And we have a number of other products that we're developing, and we try and integrate as much as we can into larger systems. Next slide. We are very active in the space industry as well. The XCloud that you've seen allows you to make material that is much stronger than other composites that can be done, and much lighter than those, which is very important in space. That particular ultra high pressure processing actually reduces the composite outgassing, which is a very important factor when you make composites for space. So we've been successful in signing partnership and contracts with Skycraft. It's a small spacecraft launcher, spacecraft manufacturer. They've given us a contract with for a satellite launch stack, which allows you to stack about 20 small satellites into a launcher, funded by an Australian Space Agency grant. Australian Space Agency, with whom we have a joint statement of strategic intent that we signed about a year ago to sort of cooperate with them, on their activity worldwide. So, very, very exciting prospects in there that are starting to pay off because we have contracts now in that field. Next slide. So outlook and key catalysts. We have a medium to long-term target of about $100 million revenue. Last year we did about 40 million, so we're well on the way to get there, with gross margins at around the 30% mark. That is, quite important for us, and it's all underpinned by the fact that we have now this XCloud manufacturing capability on one side. We have a US distribution and manufacturing base. We've established a global network for exports, and we have continuing SUAS supply and maintenance, which is underpinning a lot of what we do. We do a lot of growth in actionable intelligence and more interest in advanced composite material, especially for space. Catalyst to make it happen. We're well funded. We had $10 million in cash to execute the strategy at the end of last year, and what we expect to see is complete the delivery of ballistic plates to the Finnish Defence Force with three-quarter there. So it's going well. Should be done by the end of the first half of this year. Launch additional ballistic products in the US. We have a number of them that have been launched very, very seriously in the last few days, but we have more that are coming up. We need to order the key parts of our US XCloud machine, the second machine that we installed in our factory in the US. So that's something to look for. We're looking at that to be done during this calendar year. We'll install, commission, optimize this US machine in calendar year 22. We expect to complete our space project in partnership with Skycraft in the second half of CY 21, and we'll achieve a further commercial order, hopefully for XCloud products across domestic and international target parties. As we go, we're receiving regular orders, but we see those increasing as we go quite substantially. And in the end, we continue the supply and maintenance of small unmanned aerial systems to the ADF, to the Australian Defence Forces as well. Next slide. So thank you very much for your attention. I know you want to ask questions, but if you want to contact us, here is where you can get for more information. You can contact me. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a good day.